Well, hello students, we are going to now actually use the code blocks IDE that we installed in the previous lesson. We're going to use it to actually write some C code. So you simply double click on the code blocks. It'll take it a few seconds to load, depending on how much RAM memory you have, of course. And we're going to come down here, we're going to click on a new project. And we're going to come up here, we're going to click on console application. We will click on C and we will hit next. And we are going to call this simply Hello World. And in my case, I already have one there because I made a video earlier and I didn't have my microphone on. And we're going to overwrite it. Most of y'all won't need to do that. This is just a confirmation, which is kind of nice so you don't overwrite any previous existing code by accident. Then you're going to come down here and you're going to open up C. This is our main code. And this is probably the one time that CodeBlocks is going to do absolutely all the work for you because they want you to go in and they want you to test the compiler, so they've already set everything up. But we're just going to go over what these lines of code do. This right here is called a preprocessor, and what that basically does is it tells the system how to handle it tells the compiler how to handle inputs and outputs in this particular example. Almost every program you write will probably have this. I can't think of any that I've ever done that didn't have any, but I'm sure that there's probably exceptions out there, so make sure you have that. Make sure you don't make any typos in there. This is called a header file, actually, and so you know what's going on in the background there. That's a function in the background that controls the inputs and outputs from your screen. Most programs will also have the standard library included, and again, I can't think of too many exceptions to that. And then this right here is where the rest of our coding actually starts. And what this is this every program is going to have this particular piece of code in it. This is the main function. All right, so everything then that comes below that is part of that function. This is what we start our code out. This is what is processed first in our particular application. We come down here. Now I'm not going to go into the individual commands here because that's going to come in a little bit later. I just want to tell you how this particular Hello World program is going to work and how we're going to test our compiler. But printf is basically that's giving an instruction to print everything inside the parentheses and quotes. It's going to print it out to the screen. The \n is actually a separate instruction that will give us a line feed. And then we have return 0, which is going to be the final stop of the program. So it's pretty easy code. If you notice here, our brackets for that particular function are all in line. Make sure that you end every line of code with your semicolon. If you don't, you'll get an error there. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to compile that code, and right here it says build, so come up there to the little gear, hit build. Now if you look down here, all right, in this particular example, because they've already done all the work for us, we don't have any errors, so we know it works. Now what you could get here is you could get some errors. Those errors are going to come into play a little bit later on. Since this code we already knew that it was working, we don't need to worry too much about it. But if you do get errors, what you need to do then is go back, check for typos, make sure you did your code correctly, make sure you have your semicolons, make sure you have all your squiggly brackets lined up correctly. But and then you're going to look at that particular, if you do get an error, it'll normally be in red, sometimes it's in yellow depending on the compiler, and you're going to need to correct that particular problem. CodeBlocks does a really good job at helping you troubleshoot your code, but it doesn't totally troubleshoot it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hit run. We want to see what happens. And there you are. Get a separate pop-up window. That's where our console application actually ran. We have Hello World here, and it gives us our execution time. So we can hit any key now to continue. Now, what's important in this and why I say you should always start out with a Hello World, sometimes students say, why are we starting out with Hello World? That's the most basic thing. The most important thing that we just did is we checked our compiler, and that's what creates, it takes the human readable code that we all have right here that we put in the system. That's going to take it, it's going to turn it into ones and zeros that the system understands in the background, and then that's what does the work for us. So that's why we do that. That's why we do coding. You're simply putting some human readable things into the IDE, and the IDE then will compile it, it'll check it, it'll give us some feedback whether it works or not, and then we can test it. So that's pretty much how you write a very simple program and test your compiler. Thank you very much and have a good day.